It was a rainy Wednesday evening in the heart of the city. People rushed past one another under umbrellas, headlights flickering on the wet streets, and the usual noise of traffic buzzing in the background. But inside a dimly lit art gallery, silence hung like a question. A man named Arian was supposed to unveil his life's masterpiece that night, a painting he had worked on for nearly 3 years. The gallery was filled with admirers, critics, and reporters. Cameras were ready. The red curtain waited. But Arian was nowhere to be seen. His phone? Switched off. His studio? Locked. His last known message? A single line sent to his assistant 3 hours before. Sometimes, to find yourself, you must vanish. Confusion turned to concern. Concern turned to whispers. Whispers turned into news. By midnight, the art world was in chaos. Arian wasn't just any painter, he was a story himself. A man who rose from homelessness to become one of the most respected modern artists of his time. He had seen dark days, slept on footpaths, painted on scrap cardboard, and sold street sketches to survive. And now, at the peak of his career, he disappeared. But Arian's story didn't begin that night, and it didn't end there either. While the world speculated everything from suicide to kidnapping, a security camera on a deserted highway recorded something strange at 2:13 a.m., a lone man, walking barefoot in the rain, holding nothing but a sketchbook, and smiling. No one noticed the footage, not yet. But a mystery had already begun. Meanwhile, in a mountain village hundreds of miles away, an old woman named Ruxana opened her creaky wooden door at dawn. Before her stood a soaked, shivering man with deep eyes and cracked hands. He whispered, "Do you still remember me?" Her breath caught in her throat. "Arian?" He nodded, and then collapsed. That morning, the headlines screamed. Famous painter missing. Mysterious note sparks theories. Vanished at his peak, Arian's last words leave questions. Is this a publicity stunt or something darker? But Arian's journey had just begun, far away from fame, cameras, and questions. As he lay unconscious in the wooden cottage, surrounded by oil lamps and the scent of old spices, a map slipped from his coat. It was hand-drawn, and had only one word scribbled on it. Purpose. Who was Ruxana? Why did Arian choose to vanish now, of all times? And what was the meaning of the word on that strange, secret map? One thing was certain, this was no ordinary disappearance. And what Arian was about to uncover could change more lives than just his own. Arian woke to the smell of wood smoke and warm tea. His head throbbed, and his clothes stuck to his skin. For a moment, he didn't know where he was. Then he saw the old wooden beams of the cottage ceiling, the flickering flame of a lantern, and Ruxana's wrinkled face, watching him quietly from a stool by the window. "You haven't changed," she said softly, pouring him a cup of tea. Arian tried to sit up, wincing as pain shot through his ribs. "How did I get here?" "You walked through the storm," Ruxana said. "Alone." "Like always." He took the tea, his hands shaking. Outside, the mountain fog rolled like silent ghosts. The village was remote, disconnected from everything. No phone signal, no internet, no noise. Just silence. Peace. But also, something hidden. Arian reached into his coat, remembering something. The map. It was still there, slightly torn, water-stained, but legible. It wasn't just a map of directions. It had strange markings, sketches of places, a circled cave, and a name scribbled faintly near the edge. Amar. Ruxana noticed it. Her face darkened. "You're still chasing him?" Arian looked at her. "I have to." She didn't reply for a long while. Just stared at the mountains beyond the window. Finally, she said, "That path doesn't bring peace. It brings pain. You know that better than anyone." Aryan closed his eyes. Years ago, when he was nothing, when his life was hunger and cold, there was one man who changed everything for him. Amar. A painter too. A genius. A ghost. He took Aryan in when no one else would. Fed him. Taught him. But then, he disappeared. No goodbye. No message. Just gone, like smoke. Aryan searched for him for years. Not just to thank him, but because he believed Amar held the answer to something bigger. A truth. A lesson. Something more than fame, paint, or applause. But every time he got close, Amar vanished again. Some said he died. Others whispered he became a monk. No proof. No closure. Until a month ago, Aryan received a letter, unsigned, written in charcoal. If you still seek truth, come to where silence breathes. Bring only your scars. The letter had the map. And a warning. Fame blinds. Purpose guides. Choose wisely. Aryan had chosen. He left behind everything. Walked away from the gallery, the cameras, even his unfinished masterpiece. Because something deep inside told him, this wasn't about art anymore. It was about life. Real life. The kind people forget while chasing success. Now, Ruxana looked at him again. If you go after Amar, you may not come back the same. Aryan stood, slowly. I don't want to come back the same. That night, he packed only what he needed, the map, a pencil, a torch, and a scarf Amar once gave him. Before dawn, Aryan stood at the edge of the forest trail, staring into the mist. Somewhere beyond the woods and cliffs, the truth waited. But just as he stepped forward, a voice whispered from the trees behind him. You're not the only one looking for Amar. Aryan turned, but saw nothing. Only shadows. Aryan froze. The whisper from the trees wasn't his imagination. It had weight. Breath. Intention. Who's there? He called out. Silence. The forest ahead seemed to lean closer, trees like tall spectators in a play with no script. He turned back toward the trail, but something had shifted. It wasn't just the fog. It was the air. The feeling. As if he had stepped into a place that didn't want to be found. Still, he pushed forward. Each step deeper into the forest felt like peeling away layers of himself. Memories came, uninvited, nights he slept in bus stops, painting on walls for coins, the time Amar gave him his first brush and said, don't paint to be seen, paint to see. But what did Amar see that made him disappear? The trail narrowed. Branches clawed at Aryan's coat. After an hour, he came across a clearing, and stopped. There, carved into stone, was a symbol. A spiral wrapped in flame. The same symbol was on the map, just before the circled cave. Below it was something freshly written in charcoal. Truth demands loss. Suddenly, a twig snapped behind him. Aryan turned fast, and this time, he saw someone. A man, maybe 30, rugged, with piercing eyes and a jagged scar across his left cheek. He wasn't hiding. You're Aryan, the man said. The painter who vanished. Aryan didn't respond. The man stepped forward. You think you're the only one Amar changed? The only one he left behind with questions and scars? Aryan clenched his fists. Who are you? They call me Ray. Doesn't matter. He eyed the map. But I'm not here to hurt you. I'm here for the same reason. To find Amar. Or at least, the truth he ran to. Aryan studied him. His clothes were worn, his boots muddy. He'd been on this path a long time too. What do you know? Aryan asked. Ray hesitated, then said, Amar didn't just vanish. He chose to erase himself. From fame, from the world. And the reason is buried in a cave ahead, but not the way this map shows. He pulled out his own copy of the map. It was older. Slightly different. There's a second entrance, Ray said. Hidden. But it's not safe. The cave collapses in sections. One wrong step. He didn't finish the sentence. Arian looked at his map, then Ray's. The markings didn't match entirely. Which one was real? Or were they both part of a larger riddle Amar had left? Ray added, he left pieces of the truth with each of us, hoping we'd meet. Hoping we'd work together, not chase ghosts alone. Arian wasn't sure he could trust him, but something in Ray's eyes reflected his own tired soul. They agreed to go together. Cautiously. By nightfall, they reached the mountain face. There was a narrow crack between rocks, barely wide enough to squeeze through. The entrance Ray believed led to the heart of Amar's truth. Before stepping inside, Arian paused and looked back. No going back now. Inside, the cave was damp, the air thick. They lit a torch. The walls were covered with drawings, not just paintings, but stories. Scenes of cities burning, people meditating, a man walking alone through snow. One sketch stopped Arian cold. It was him. Painted in charcoal. Standing in front of a mirror, but the reflection was Amar. He stepped closer, heart pounding. And just below it, scrawled in shaky handwriting. What you seek was never me. It was always in you. Ray turned to him. Did you see that? Arian opened his mouth to respond, when the ground trembled. A low rumble echoed. Stones shifted. And the passage behind them caved in. They were trapped. The dust hadn't even settled when Arian realized they were buried alive. Ray coughed violently, holding the torch above his head, its flickering light now their only sun. Rocks sealed the path they came from. There was no going back. No, Arian muttered, voice trembling. No, no, no. Panic started to rise in his chest. The weight of the cave, the darkness, the idea that this would be where his journey ended, buried beside half-truths and an unfinished story, it was suffocating. Ray knelt beside the fallen debris, examining it. It's bad, he said calmly, but not impossible. There's air. We have time. Arian sat down, resting his back against the cave wall. Time. How much of it? And for what? He looked at the sketch again, the one of himself, facing Amar in the mirror. What you seek was never me. It was always in you. He whispered the words aloud. They echoed strangely, as if the cave itself listened. Ray sat across from him, watching. You know, I hated Amar for years, he said. For giving me hope and then vanishing. I built my life around his teachings, around what he saw in me. When he disappeared, I thought maybe I was never enough. Arian nodded slowly. I know the feeling. I tried to be seen. To matter. I thought fame would heal what life broke. And did it? Ray asked. Arian shook his head. The higher I climbed, the more hollow I felt. Ray looked at the cave wall, where more sketches trailed into the shadows. Maybe this was never about him. Maybe he just gave us a path to face ourselves. They stood together and followed the trail of sketches deeper. The air grew colder, tighter, but something changed, the drawings began to show a transformation. A man shedding masks. A heart cracked open, revealing light. People carrying their burdens, helping one another climb. Finally, they reached the last chamber, a domed hollow deep in the earth. In its center was a pedestal, and on it, a worn leather-bound book. No locks. No treasure chests. Just a journal. Arian opened it. Page 1, to those who followed, I disappeared to teach you not to. Each page was Amar's confession. His fame had become a cage. People saw his art, but not his pain. He had mentored Arian and others, to show them that real creation, real purpose, comes not from being known, but from knowing yourself. The cave wasn't an escape. It was a lesson. The world doesn't need you to be famous. It needs you to be real. To be brave enough to live a life with meaning, not noise. If you're reading this, you are ready. Tears welled in Arian's eyes. Not out of sorrow, but release. Ray exhaled. He didn't abandon us. He led us here to break the chains we put on ourselves. They stayed in silence, letting the truth settle. Then, they noticed a faint breeze. Ray pointed to the far side of the chamber, a narrow passage, just wide enough to crawl through. They followed it. Crawling. Bleeding. Laughing through the pain. And at the end, sunlight. Arian stepped out into a mountaintop dawn. The sky stretched endlessly, like a blank canvas. Months later, Arian's first public talk wasn't about art. It was about truth. About losing yourself to find yourself. People didn't come to see a painter, they came to hear a man who had vanished to win. He painted again, but not for galleries. For healing centers. For children in hospitals. For the quiet corners of the world that needed light. His story traveled, not as gossip, but as guidance. And the lesson he shared. Sometimes the greatest victory is not being seen, but finally seeing yourself.